What is SeedZoo, and why should you grow the SeedZoo varieties? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome to Richter's Videos. We're pleased to present this short video to help you discover a whole new world of herbs and veggies at Richters. SeedZoo is a special project of Richters to search for rare and endangered food plants and bring them to gardeners to grow in their gardens. It is a partnership between plant explorers and Richters to engage home gardeners to help in the urgent task of preserving the world's plant biodiversity. Why is preserving plant biodiversity so important? To answer that question, we must start by looking at species diversity. Today, there are more than 300,000 known species of plants, of which 260,000 are what biologists call higher plants or plants that produce seeds. That's a lot of species, but we're losing them fast. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature maintains a red list of species that are endangered. Currently, among those 260,000 seed plants, there are over 9,000 that are endangered or vulnerable. These are at the edge of a cliff, and one push could cause them to go over the cliff and be lost forever. 31 species are already extinct in the wild, and are only still with us preserved in a seed bank or in cultivation. Species can disappear because of a loss of habitat, climate change, or overharvesting in the case of useful plants. When we speak of food security, we not only worry about species diversity, we worry about crops diversity. These are the plants we depend on for our existence on Earth. Despite that big number of plant species known to exist on Earth, there are surprisingly few plants that we get our food from. Here are the top 12 food crops by production volume in millions of metric tons. These are data from the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, a UN entity based in Rome. You may be surprised of some of the crops on this list. Sugarcane is by far the most important food crop. Maize, rice, wheat, and potato are no surprise. But then another sugar source, the sugar beet. And then a few unfamiliar crops, cassava and oil palm, two important staples of the tropics. Tomato, barley, and banana round out the list. When we speak of food security, we ask how secure is our food supply, and will we have enough for future generations? And we want to know whether our food supply can withstand a catastrophic disease outbreak, like what happened during the Irish potato famine. And what will be the effect of climate change on our food supply? It stands to reason that if we depend on a wide variety of food plants, then our food supply will be more secure. If one species fails, we can turn to other species for our survival. But in Ireland in the 1840s and 1850s, the poor had become so dependent on one crop, the potato, and when that crop failed, the poor suffered terribly, and more than 1 million died of starvation, and another 1 million left Ireland. So if we depend on too few species, then we set ourselves up for the risk of catastrophic food supply disruption. The FAO tracks about 169 crops worldwide, and among those crops I counted 240 species of food plants. Some of the crops, such as melons and beans, included more than one species. From the FAO numbers, I think it is pretty clear that we depend on too few species for food. Just 80 species account for 90% of our food crops, and just 4 species account for half. Consider that the historical record shows that humans have grown over 7,000 species of plants for food, and that 4 species accounting for half of our food makes me very, very nervous. You might ask why we have gone from 7,000 species to 240 species today. One reason is mechanization. If a crop requires too much hand labor and cannot be planted, maintained, and harvested by machine, then modern farmers will not grow that crop. I found that out when I tried to interest Saskatchewan farmers to grow certain herbs. The farmers quickly pointed out that my herbs would need too much hand labor, and I was turned down. Crop diversity is not just about the number of species that we depend on. It is also the number of varieties within each species. In the case of tomatoes, there are some 7,500 distinct varieties known today. This is very important because one variety can be more resistant to disease and pests than another, or another variety may be more drought tolerant. But we're not just losing species, we're also losing varieties. Of the 8,000 apple varieties that were known to exist in the U.S. in 1900, 95% are now lost. Of the many varieties of corn grown in Mexico in 1930, some 80% are now lost. Of 10,000 varieties of wheat grown in China as recently as 1949, 90% are now lost. In the last century, the FAO estimates that 75% of our crop diversity was lost. Well, what is being done about this? One initiative is to build seed banks like this one north of Norway in the Arctic Circle. It's called the Global Seed Vault, and Bill Gates and his wife are key backers. You can see that thousands, perhaps millions of seed accessions are stored in the vault, in sealed jars, in conditions that ensure long-term longevity of the seeds. Of course, all it takes is for the equipment to fail for all this to be lost. So the FAO has urged for more seed banks like the Seed Vault to be built to ensure the preservation of our plant biodiversity. It also said that we need more botanical gardens. Botanical gardens are living collections of plants, and they do much of a needed job of preserving our plant genetic resources. But botanical gardens need also to meet the needs of visitors, and row after row of beans and corns and barley, well, they're not just that appealing. And so these botanical gardens are limited in what they can do. The SeedZoo idea is to engage you, the gardeners of North America, to help preserve our plant biodiversity. Gardeners can provide the crucial living link for preservation, growing out plants, saving seeds, and passing them on to friends and family. And why not? This is what farmers have done for millennia. Why can't home gardeners do the same? Collectively, the different initiatives can each play big roles in helping to save our botanical heritage. SeedZoo begins with our plant explorers, who travel the world looking for rare and unusual plants. Joseph Simcox approached us in 2010 and asked if we would consider starting a project to distribute seeds of rare food plants to home gardeners. We loved the idea, and we quickly worked on a way to do just that. Joseph is the Indiana Jones of the plant world. He lives out of a suitcase, constantly on the go around the world, and in the past couple of years he has traveled to something like 100 countries. In this slide he is in the main market of Kampala, the capital of Uganda, where he collected local bean varieties. Maybe we should call him Indiana Joe. This is in the jungles of Papua New Guinea. One of Joe's many projects is to search for new fruits and nuts that may have commercial potential as exotic new foods in the West. Here, a couple of natives are holding a liana-like vine that has edible red fruits. For Joseph, plant exploring is a family affair. His daughter Alicia, shown here, and his brother, not in the picture, are plant collectors also. Here, Alicia is in northern Vietnam with the wild herb woman of Vietnam, and showing an impressive array of wild medicinal herbs. Here is an array of melons that Joseph and Alicia found in Madagascar, a variety of squashes in Armenia, more Armenian squashes. Joseph traveled to several Central Asian republics in search of edible plants new to North America. He traveled with Stephen Fasciola, the author of an incredible source book on edible plants called Cornucopia. Joseph empties out the squash fruits to get the seeds, which he cleans and dries in his hotel room. Here Joseph is in New Caledonia, excited by a new find. Here he's in Oman. Even in the deserts of the world he finds remarkable plants. Here he's in the deserts of Namibia with a crazy fruiting plant that manages to survive in conditions where almost nothing else grows. What the SeedZoo project does is completely different from what seed companies normally do. Seed companies buy their seeds from seed growers, seeds such as those that will be harvested from these onions in this field. You can see that these onions are well on their way toward producing a nice seed crop. The seed industry is highly specialized, and in North America there are regions where it is concentrated. Oregon is a major vegetable and flower seed producing area, as is Idaho, California, and Arizona. Typically, seed is cleaned and packed in bags like this before delivery to seed companies, which pack the seeds in the color packets you see in stores. The whole process from field to packet is geared for large-scale production and for ensuring variety identity, uniformity, and quality. The modern seed industry could not exist without large-scale mechanization. That's why you often see the same varieties sold by many different seed companies. They're all buying from the same sources. This is precisely what does not happen with the SeedZoo project. SeedZoo has a very different business model. We usually only get a handful of seeds, sometimes as few as 100 seeds. And when they sell out, they're gone forever. We cannot call up seed suppliers and seed growers and ask them to send more. That's why it is important not to hesitate when you see a variety that interests you on the SeedZoo website. That variety may be gone tomorrow if you wait too long. Here are some SeedZoo varieties that you have already missed out on. Here is a flat pumpkin from the Syrian region of Borneo. This is a cute watermelon from the town of Limbang in Borneo. As you can see, it fits comfortably in the palm of a hand. This one sold out almost instantly. Here it is again. This is an award-winning squash from Japan, grown by just a few growers. Here is a beautiful green bean from the markets in Fort Portal in Uganda. This is a bean, Lupinus pilosus, that was once widely grown in northern Italy for making a wonderful coffee substitute called Altri coffee. The beans are roasted and ground and drunk like coffee. A couple of German scientists with an interest in the biodiversity of European food plants took an interest in this crop, and now the villagers of Altri are once again raising this old crop. Shown in the picture is Otto Wirth, who is a great advocate of Altri coffee and other traditional European food plants. Here is Alicia in a market in Vietnam where they sell Java celery, the Onianthe javanica. She managed to convince the local growers to share some of the precious seeds. These are melons found in a little town called Toliara in southern Madagascar. They are cooked and eaten like squash. It is interesting to note that in the northern half of the country, Western varieties were introduced to farmers because they were supposedly superior to the local varieties. But the introduced varieties are not doing well, and the local varieties are coming back. What so-called experts overlook is that the local varieties are the result of many years of selection. As farmers save seeds from their best melons, they are instinctively breeding varieties that are better adapted to the local conditions and can better withstand periodic outbreaks of disease and pests. On a trip to Chile, Alicia found this gourd, a regional favorite. The warded skin is really striking. This is a photo of 2 gourds grown from the seeds that Alicia brought back. A customer sent this photo to us. Compare the 2 fruits in front. Note how different the 2 are. One of the things that we in North America will find a bit of an adjustment with the SeedZoo varieties is that there is a much greater range of variation in plants than we are accustomed to. In the West, uniformity is important because of mechanization. It is because of this that so many varieties of the past have been lost. But it is precisely this variability that helps plants succeed year after year in areas where drought and pestilence can strike in a year. Without access to irrigation and chemicals, farmers depend on the fact that no one plant is exactly the same as the next one. Plants that are resistant to disease may be mixed in with other plants that yield better in a good year, but don't do so well in a bad year. This variability is like an insurance policy for subsistence farmers. In a time where we in the West are facing questions about the over-reliance on chemicals and irrigation, we may have to relearn the old ways as we cut back on chemicals and as we find that water is not an unlimited resource. Here are more customer photos, this time of Bambara bean and tiger bean. Because so little is known about these varieties, a big part of a SeedZoo experience is discovery. To discover how the plants grow, what they need, how to harvest them and use them. Sure, you could grow ordinary tomatoes and peppers, but we think that SeedZoo brings back the magic of growing your own plants from seeds. We want SeedZoo growers to share knowledge and of course to share seeds. And we want SeedZoo growers to feel like they're part of a grand mission to save our planet's biodiversity. I hope that you will join us. Here's how you can find the latest SeedZoo varieties. Visit us online at SeedZoo.com. We don't print a catalog because the varieties change all the time as they sell out and are replaced by new varieties. You will find seeds from all over the world. Even if you don't buy anything, just to read through the variety descriptions, is a wonderful experience.
At Richters, it's not just a garden, it's a whole new world. For herb plants, seeds, veggies, and more, visit us at richters.com or call 1-800-668-4372.